Today I'm going to be talking about Alfred Wegener's theory of continental drift, which was the theory of how the continents were once joined together but have since moved apart. This is Alfred Wegener. He was born on November 1st, 1880 in Berlin, Germany. His father was a theologist, and he grew up in a learning environment. Thus, during school, he graduated in the top of his class with his scientific studies. In 1905, Wegener obtained a doctorate in astronomy based off of some of the theses that he wrote. After his college, he went on to study developing theories in the fields of meteorology and climatology. The theory of continental drift first came around in 1912 when Wegener first noticed that the land masses of the Earth fit together like puzzle pieces, most noticeably South America, Africa, North America, and Europe. Wegener argued that all the continents were once a long time ago joined together and have since somehow drifted apart. He initially suggests that the cause of this was seafloor spreading, which I'll get into in a minute. He names this landmass Ur-Kontinent, which is German for primal continent. Today, we all know it as Pangaea, which comes from the Greek. He names his theory the theory of continental drift. The process of seafloor spreading is how Alfred Wegener explained his theory of continental drift. During the process of seafloor spreading, magma is upwelled and cooled and then pushed outward, as you can see here, kind of underneath where it says youngest, that's the magma. It gets risen up, pushed out, and these mid-Atlantic ridges are created, which would push the land masses further apart. At first, Wegener's theory was not widely accepted by the other scientific thinkers of the time. This was because Wegener first suggested that the continents would move at a rate of 250 centimeters per year, which other scientists thought was far too big. The current accepted rate today is 2.5 centimeters per year that the continents move at. Though many did not support his theory, there were few that did. Alexander Dutoit of Africa supported his theory the most. But he would go out in public speakings and give speeches on the support of his theory, where Wegener didn't really stand up for himself that much. In 1935, Alexander Dutoit suggested and added to the continental drift hypothesis that there were two primordial continents, Laurasia being in the north and Gondwana being in the south. So the base of the theory of the continental drift, which is like the evidence and everything, was the first component is mainly that Wegener thought that the continents appeared to drift over the ocean and that they were once formed together and that through seafloor spreading they had separated apart. So one of the main components for evidence of the theory of continental drift was that similar plants and animal species were found to be across continents. Like you can see here, the color in South America to Africa links the same sort of area where they would once have been joined together and then they drifted apart. So now today you would have a same species in South America that would also be in Africa, as well as plant species and fossils such as like the Mesosaurus fossils that were found in South Africa and South America. And then you also have like earthworm species that aren't pictured here, but you have different earthworm species that are found in South Africa and the Americas, which would suggest that at one time they were together and then they have since drifted apart and now having different species on different continents. The last major component for evidence would also be similar to the last one, that there were similar rock formations and mountain ranges across different continents. Like we see the Appalachian Mountain Range in America, which runs along all the way up to Canada, would also mirror and look exactly identical, and studies have shown that they're very similar to the eastern Greenland mountain ranges. And you can see in the map there where you kind of have mountain ranges that form all the way from north to south along different sides of the continents on the west and on the east, showing that they are the same sort of formations, but they would have once been joined together and have since drifted apart through seafloor spreading. So, in conclusion, this is Alfred Wegener. His theory was the theory of continental drift, which was the theory that continents had once been joined together, but through what he thought was the reason for it was seafloor spreading. Now we know that it's more plate tectonics, but I'm not going to get into that because that's not my topic. But this was his theory, and his components for it were that there were similar plant species, similar mountain ranges, fossils, across different continents today that looked like they had once been together and been all one continent that he called Ur continent, or we know it as Pangea today.